Imagine receiving a direct command from God, an order that tells you to destroy an entire city, men, women, children, even the animals. It sounds like something from a dark movie. But this command appears in the Bible, and it didn't happen only once. According to the biblical text, God ordered the Israelites to exterminate entire peoples who lived in the land of Canaan, the Canaanites. But why? Would the God described as loving, merciful, and just really command something so brutal? This is one of the most disturbing questions in the history of the Bible. And today, we are going to explore this mystery. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to discover may completely change the way you understand these biblical passages. To understand this story, we need to go back thousands of years. According to the Bible, God promised Abraham a special land, the so-called Promised Land. This region was known as Canaan. But there was a problem. The land was already inhabited. Several peoples had lived there for generations: Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Jebusites, and others. Even so, God promised that this land would be given to the descendants of Abraham. But this promise took centuries to unfold. Only after the Israelites left Egypt, under the leadership of Moses, did the process truly begin. And when they finally approached Canaan, the shocking command came. In several passages of the Old Testament, we see an extremely harsh instruction. The Israelites were told to conquer the land and completely eliminate the peoples who lived there. No agreements, no coexistence. Some texts literally say, "Do not leave alive anything that breathes." Entire cities were to be destroyed. This type of war was known as a war of dedication, where everything was devoted to God. One of the most famous stories is the fall of Jericho. According to the biblical account, after the walls of the city collapsed, the Israelites destroyed everything inside it: men, women, children. For many modern readers, this raises an unavoidable question. How could a just God command something like this? Some scholars argue that these passages must be understood within the context of the ancient world. Ancient societies were extremely violent. Wars of total destruction were not unusual. When one nation conquered another, entire cities were sometimes wiped out. But there is still an important detail. In this case, it is not just a normal war. According to the biblical narrative, it was a divine command. The Bible itself provides an explanation. According to the texts, the Canaanite peoples practiced rituals considered extremely corrupt. Among them were human sacrifices. Some cultures in the region offered children in religious rituals, something that the Bible describes as an abomination before God. In certain passages, God declares that those nations had reached the limit of their moral corruption, and that judgment would come through the Israelites. In other words, the destruction was not meant to be only a territorial conquest. It was presented as a form of judgment. Even so, the debate continues. This topic divides scholars, theologians, and historians to this day. There are many different interpretations. Some believe the texts describe literal historical events. Others argue that the language used in the Bible may be hyperbolic. In the ancient world, kings often claimed they had completely destroyed their enemies, even when that was not literally true. There are also scholars who suggest that these narratives were written or edited long after the events they describe, and that they may reflect religious interpretations of history. In other words, the discussion remains open. This episode raises a profound question. How can these stories be reconciled with the idea of a loving God? Some theologians say these events belong to a specific moment in history, a time when God was forming a nation and preserving a spiritual identity. Others believe that divine revelation unfolded progressively throughout the scriptures, and that the understanding of God developed over time. That is why in the New Testament the message of Jesus emphasizes something very different. Love your enemies, forgive others, seek peace. This creates a striking contrast between different periods of the Bible. Even after thousands of years, these passages remain some of the most difficult to interpret. For some people, they represent divine justice. For others, they are symbolic texts or ancient accounts that must be examined carefully. And for many modern readers, they remain a great mystery. But perhaps the most important question is not simply what happened, but rather what do these texts truly mean? The story of the extermination of the Canaanites remains one of the most controversial episodes in the Bible. It forces us to confront difficult questions about faith, history, morality, and interpretation. The Bible is not only a book of simple stories, it is also filled with challenges, mysteries, and deep questions. And perhaps that is exactly what makes it so fascinating. Because some biblical stories do more than describe the past. They invite us to reflect on the most difficult questions of humanity.